So my thing is, I'm Liz, I'm the CEO of Nifty Learning. I used to be in L&D, and now I am close to it intimately. My topic is going to be take a walk through the office. This is just to break your typical rhythm and also not to throw too much shade at the typical learning needs analysis process, which is like super, super giant. But I think that it's a good idea to sometimes break your normal rhythm and just go speak to the people. This is gonna be like almost like a worksheet. You can take this home and use it if you forget the rules of the game. I'm gonna say this walk should be like, or conversation, let's say 10 minutes or less per person. Just pick random people in the office, / in Teams or Slack or whatever. You'll know after the first couple of minutes if you have to schedule a calendar call or if you could just like find out a need on the spot and see if you can solve it. I would say don't pick more than 3 people. Just make this like a super quick on-point exercise and take as much information as you can in 10 minutes or less from maximum 3 people. Try to create yourself a cadence. I would say once a month is good enough. Any more than that, it's gonna turn into a thing that takes up too much of your attention. Any less than that probably is not gonna give you enough information to be impactful. I wanna say for learning and development people, sometimes it's difficult to say that they can't solve the problem. So we tend to kind of dance around this thing, which is I actually can't help you. So I want to say, be transparent. Don't make promises you can't keep. If you can help that person solve that problem, great. If not, be transparent and say maybe you'll work on it, but you have to work on it then. Accept your limitations, or rather push back if it's not your jam. If the thing you discover is not a learning and development problem, don't try to solve it. Please, for the love of all that is sacred, stop trying to solve everybody's problems. But do pass it on to the relevant people. We have the immense privilege of accessing so much information in the organization, and I believe it's our duty to pass it on to whoever is responsible to actually solving it. And draw a conclusion. So within those 10 minutes, have something at the end, an actionable thing, a suggestion. Go to the library and I don't know, read this thing or watch this movie, or I think George can help you because George is an expert on this problem that you're facing. But have a conclusion at the end of that conversation. Now, I said I don't want to throw shade, right? I recognize that the needs analysis process is essential. I think it has a lot of benefits. I think it's something that we need to do as an industry. Let's say it needs to be a consistent thing, and it needs to follow some rules. Obviously, you need to consult the entire organization. It needs to have some boundaries in terms of the surveys that you use and the repeatability of the questions. But I think that the needs analysis process, a classical one, is quite limited in the sense that it depersonalizes the individuals that you ultimately are trying to help, because you just gather macro data and you create macro opinions or information, and you try to solve macro things. Like obviously an outcome of a needs analysis process is going to be, we need to make a significant change in our leadership program. Beautiful, but that's not going to solve George's particular issue when he's trying to ask someone for a help and he can't because whatever reason you discover in those 10 minutes. Also, I feel like the needs analysis process is easy to dismiss and be dishonest when answering, because it's a screen away, it's an admin thing, and people, I don't believe personally that they spend that much time and do so much introspection to give you their honest issues. Also, if it happens once a year or once every 6 months, 5 months ago I had a problem, I'm never going to introduce it in the needs analysis process, so opportunity missed. The office walkthrough, it's short, impactful, I think deeply, and I eat my own cooking. I've done this and I know it works. It can turn L&D people into champions, because you are a face of an actual person asking, caring about that person's problem, and you're genuinely investing energy to give them a solution. It can make them believe that L&D exists and then they're a helpful department, not someone in an ivory tower who occasionally sends a survey. And obviously it has limitations, right? It doesn't address the entire organization. The purpose isn't to solve magically everything. The purpose is for you to stop being an anonymous face in that department, but rather to just get a feel of what's going on, what's the vibe. You will probably catch things that never show up in any survey ever. but maybe they have to do with culture, with resources, with process deficiencies, with departments that don't speak to each other. These are things that sometimes don't show up in those formal, like rigid processes that we go through. I wanna, let's say, add some disclaimers. I think we must start creating allies, and it must start becoming obvious how we help. That's why I'm suggesting such a close relationship or close process. As I said, the needs analysis standard is necessary, but it's imperfect. It can create impactful solutions globally, but they are kind of lagging behind the current issue of the organization. I think that still personalization through technology, and I've learned recently of the concept of hyper-personalization, is still insufficient, and sometimes it can be damaging depending on what information gets put into the process. There is a risk of it giving you wrong advice or bad recommendations. You have a cold start problem and so on. So I still think that you need a human in the loop, someone who regularly checks in and does that human interaction. I would say another important thing is if you solve an urgent problem on the spot, that employee is going to feel more valued and seen than any soft skills program that takes a year to go through. Also, people are just not going to answer. They don't have time, they don't care, they forgot about the problem, they have a new problem, it doesn't matter. I don't want to answer or I don't want help are valid responses, and that's something you can't talk through with a survey. And for remote workers, obviously, use Slack, Teams, whatever. Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Just go ask people what the problem is. This is my suggestion. Just do an office walkthrough, meet the people you're trying to help and ask them and see maybe you can help them on the spot.